The sustained attack on men from every news outlet and so many agencies has successfully caused every member of society to treat men as automatically suspect. Men increasingly think of each other as potential paedophiles, and perfectly normal men will question their own thoughts and actions around children. I recall one man during the Madeleine McCann disappearance telling me he could imagine men passing her round for abuse. What's happening in our society that could prompt a thought like that about men, from a man, when the likelihood is that such abuse exists in imagination only? When we hear hoofbeats behind us, how have we been programmed to think zebras and not horses? If we were to begin to treat women with the same suspicion as men are treated in this area, we'd have to look at women that choose to be single mothers. Having children as a single parent is so incredibly difficult. Why would women willingly choose to do this, unless they wanted to be at home, by themselves, with helpless children? The NSPCC barely talks about female abusers, because attacking men seems to be the main purpose of their campaigns, not the genuine safety of children. That's why they have virtually nothing to say about the numbers of female abusers, and why, for example, they say nothing at all about smoking and drinking by pregnant women. The NSPCC should be making huge efforts to protect children when they're at the most vulnerable, in the mother's womb. Smoking and drinking alcohol by pregnant women is responsible for 1,000,000 times more damage to children than men have ever done, but they say absolutely nothing about this, which shows that they're not actually concerned about preventing cruelty to children. They only seem concerned about how they can capitalise on it. The NSPCC is not answering a problem with children in our society. They are part of the problem. They cannot be genuinely concerned for children because their actions and their carefully chosen messages tell a different story. They have done and continue to do far more damage to children by attacking the family, the most crucial safety device for children, than they have ever done to help children. The NSPCC should be the biggest supporter of family in the country, because their own figures show the huge benefit of an intact family to child safety. Children are far more likely to be abused outside of a family than within one. But instead, they attack the family, and they attack men. For example, this advert deliberately shows a family unit, what they know to be the safest environment for a child, and then poisons it with their hateful message. Child abuse, and particularly child sexual abuse, are used as weapons by the NSPCC and other agencies as a means to drive a wedge between men and children. The more suspicion that's cast over men, the easier it is to break up families, the more money they make, and the more power they gain. The NSPCC has an army of fundraisers in the form of thousands of people that believe they're working for a good cause by helping out in any way they can. Tens of thousands of people give money every month. Thousands of others run all kinds of events to raise money. For example, one pyramid-type scheme that they run asks one person to organise a coffee morning for 5 other people, and each person pays £1 to the organiser. Then each of those 5 are required to do their own coffee morning for 5 other people. In this way, the money stacks up, and all feeds back into the bottomless pit of money that the NSPCC uses to spread hateful messages against men. The NSPCC themselves provide training to child protection officers for thousands of schools and other organisations. It's like training an army of informers to watch everyone and hope to uncover something that they can use against families. In this training, they define what is acceptable in society and how children should be raised. Anyone that deviates is abusive. An example of the good work of the NSPCC concerns homeschooling. The NSPCC doesn't like homeschooling and has said so. The NSPCC wants every child to be under their watchful eyes or the eyes of someone that they've trained, so that children can be kept safe. If you dare to raise your child in any other way, the NSPCC will make a case for abuse, with the chief suspect being you. It's thanks to the efforts of the NSPCC and other charities that our society positively expects child abuse to be occurring behind most closed doors.
Welcome to Petergeddon.
People like this are everywhere.
That's why my own children are here with me. Good night, children. They're safe tonight. Are yours?
I doubt it.
It's quite easy to understand why the NSPCC is so hateful towards men, and why its existence is fundamentally anti-family. imagine two candidates going for the position of Director of Fundraising at the enormous and successful business we know and love as the NSPCC. One candidate suggests a campaign telling the truth about child abuse, about its relatively low prevalence, about how family is the key to child safety, about how we should therefore do everything we can to educate mothers to make good choices before getting pregnant so as to keep family together. The other candidate suggests a campaign singling out men as likely abusers, saying that child abuse is everywhere and is an epidemic of huge proportions, how only the NSPCC can keep children safe and hear every child's cry, and they need your money to do so. The honest candidate makes 50 million. The devious one makes 250 million. Which one will become Director of Fundraising at the NSPCC?
So, for example, NGOs, non-governmental organisations, very large charities, voluntary organisations, many of whom have very explicit political agendas and bend facts, bend what they're saying to fit.
When these atrocities happen, the government steps in and claims responsibility. There's a huge outcry, the media goes into a frenzy, and heads roll in various departments. There's a public inquiry, and laws and practices change to make sure that it never happens again. The police and social services gain new powers to remove children from parents. Social workers are put under intense pressure to increase the number of children taken into care or risk losing their jobs.
With these kids that are being taken into care because mum's got a low IQ. So it seems now that social workers, in their endeavour to get more kids being put up for adoption, well, how can we do that? Right, all these people that can't, we don't think, look after their kids properly, we're going to push them up for adoption. So you've got half a dozen cases in Essex where, because mum's got a low IQ, kids are literally being taken away from her, and she's been told you can see them when you're 18.
It might seem that social services and the police are taking a whipping during these cases, but it's a whipping they're actually glad for, because it ensures that they acquire more power. By accepting responsibility for crimes that their very activities in stripping fathers from children have helped to create, they further take over the role of father from men and make the situation worse. By taking the heat for each outrage that occurs, they're able to award themselves more and more power in what they claim is an attempt to stop future occurrences. The NSPCC cannot keep children safe from this sort of abuse, and they know it. Child protection, real and effective child protection, is not about government departments, social workers or charities. It's about family. You cannot reduce child abuse with more charity donations, any more than you can reduce global warming with more air conditioning. All the NSPCC can do is take donations and then spend it on their offices, on their TV advertising, on their staff salaries, holidays and pensions, and on furthering their political ambitions. The protection of children is unfortunately not what they do best. The NSPCC doesn't need any more money. It's already drowning in money. They use their hundreds of millions to spread hateful messages against men and to destroy families, so that they can then campaign for even more money to fix the resulting mess.
The ridiculous notions that feminists have about relationships are being imposed on the rest of us. And what is forgotten is all of this, is that children need to be hugged, they need to be kissed, they need to be loved, even sometimes by their teachers, you know, especially if they've fallen over, hurt themselves, they're upset, what have you. What we have is a situation where we are governed by organisms, government, feminists, the abuse industry, whose sole interest is stirring up as much hatred as they possibly can. And we see this all the time in their rhetoric, constantly trying to cast suspicion on those who have intimate relations with each other. Is the man sexually assaulting the child? Is he being domestically violent towards his wife? Is he raping the woman that he's dating? It's all negative. That's a major problem, which the men's movement will obliterate.